So this is a video that initially I didn't think making would be a good idea, but after thinking about it for a while, I came to the conclusion that not only was it a video that I should make just to get what I'm about to say off my chest, but a video that needs to be made. Because the man I'm about to speak about has done what I view as unforgivable acts. He's been implementing unscrupulous methods into his channel for a long time now. And I really feel that he is exploiting younger audience members that may not realize what he's doing. The man I'm speaking about is Richard Masucci of ReviewTechUSA. Now, I'm already going to assume that the majority of people watching this are familiar with the man, but for those of you who may not be, I'll give you a brief overview. ReviewTechUSA is a gaming-centric channel, at least that's what it used to be. He discusses various news events related to gaming or politics, anything in between, anything that comes to his mind he will discuss. And occasionally he'll upload a video every now and then reviewing a piece of technology, as his channel name would suggest. But like I said, that's not his primary focus. He focuses primarily on news articles and giving his opinions on said articles. So I want to give my overall impression of what I experienced during my time of subscription to ReviewTechUSA. And I want to tell you why I unsubscribed from him, why you should hopefully consider unsubscribing from him, and what you should take away from this video about this man. But before we get into that, let me just give you a brief overview of my experience with Rich. So when did I first stumble upon Rich's channel? It was, I think, late 2012, early 2013 that I first stumbled upon Rich's channel. I'm taking a look at his channel right now. His most popular videos. It was one of those that I stumbled upon that first got me into it. It was AMD versus Intel. And I think, let's see here, 13-year-old attempts rape then murders mom over Xbox. That might have been it as well. So the controversial videos he made were what attracted me to him. The ones where he made the most success discussing suffering and misery of other human beings. At first, Rich's videos appealed to me, not because I found them to be incredibly informative, but because I found the way Rich presented his opinion to be pretty amusing. And it should be said, at this time in 2012, 2013, I was a much younger person. I was a lot more naive, and as a result, I was more prone to Rich's slap humor, his toilet jokes, sex jokes, etc. And as a result, I subscribed to him because I found his content amusing. Not necessarily informative, though. So I stuck around with Rich from 2013 to 2014. And it was during this period that shady things happened to the man. And at the time, I wasn't really aware of the finer details, but I was aware that something was happening and Rich had made a few mistakes. So just taking a look at some of his controversies that happened during this time. We have, in February of 2013, Rich made a video where he basically was asking his subscribers for money. In other words, he was e-begging. And while I didn't really have an issue with him asking his subscribers for what I thought at the time was a justified expense, I did have an issue with the way he responded to other people who accused him of exploiting his audience. Specifically, it was Blackbuster Critic who first exposed Rich over this issue. And the way Rich responded, you could just see that he was incredibly hostile. Blackbuster Critic did talk about this as well. Rich jumped to his own conclusions. He basically admitted that he was wrong. I mean, Blackbuster Critic never once mentioned Rich's name in his videos, but Rich interpreted it as an attack on him because he probably was genuinely doing shady things. And as a result, he attacked Blackbuster Critic back. And so it was because of this that I was like, okay, Rich, maybe you're a bit edgy, but, it's a forgivable offense. Later that year, we would get into the Big Cheese gaming scandal, which was probably, to this day, Rich's most infamous scandal. Long story cut short, there are plenty of videos out there that discuss this in detail. Rich and another YouTuber known as Big Cheese Gaming had a failed business deal where Big Cheese sent him his computer in exchange for some advertising, and Rich never delivered on this advertising. So as a result, he demanded his $200 for the computer that he sent to Rich, because Rich never actually fulfilled his end of the deal. And Rich, at this time, he made he made a response responding to this, and the majority of his viewers were totally against Rich. Very few people were justifying what he did. And eventually he did send Big Cheese the $200. So what I took away from this at the time was that Rich, yes, he did make a pretty obvious mistake. And yes, to a degree he apologized over it. But maybe there was still a chance that Rich, deep down, he was just a troubled man who just needed a guiding hand, a helping hand to get him on the right track. That's what I really wanted to believe at the time, and I did. But that wasn't the end. And now that I'm older, so when 2015, 2016 rolled around, I continued to see what Rich did, and as I matured, as I grew more knowledgeable on various topics that he discussed, I began to see who Rich really was. And so, as 2015 to 2016 rolled around, and we started moving away from Big Cheese, even though, of course, the Big Cheese Crusaders, the community of trolls, well, I don't want to call them trolls. Some of them are genuine trolls, but a lot of them are actually trying to help other people in realizing who this man is. But that community, they persisted and they stuck around. And it was during this time that I became suspicious of Rich. I was noticing a lot of his videos he would upload and then delete within the span of a few days because he would say something carelessly stupid that would get him in a lot of trouble. Trouble as in, saying something factually incorrect and looking like a dumbass, right? So when Rich started doing these things, deleting the videos, I became slightly suspicious. I was asking myself, is this man really credible? Why am I subscribed to him again? I'm not here for the factual information. I subscribed originally because I found him funny, right? So I became suspicious of him, and as 2016 rolled around, that's when I really started to see who Rich really was. I began to dwell into his previous controversies, like the Big Cheese scandal, like the camcorder scandal, and I began to look into the finer details, because at the time, when they did actually happen, I was a much younger person. Like I said, I wasn't as aware. So I began to see who Rich really was, how he exploited his audience for both views and money, and you could also tell that Rich exploits his audience for views and money, because I don't remember during my many years with Rich, my subscription to Rich, him ever giving back to his followers in any way. I mean, I don't remember giveaways. I don't remember just general shout-outs. I mean, what has Rich ever done to give back to his followers? He's asked for plenty of favors from his followers, but I don't remember him giving anything back himself. Let's go ahead and skip to 2017, 2018, where my memory is the freshest and where I can remember what exactly happened. So in 2017, Rich began to change his format. He was experimenting. I mean, he calls it experimenting, but what I saw was he was just flip-flopping back and forth between formats, not really sure what he was doing, just kind of goofing around from what I could tell. And at the time, I thought, hey, Rich is just trying, I think, right? But as I would later discover, Rich, he's not trying. He's just trying to make people think that he's trying so that he can continue to use them for views and money. When Rich opened up his Patreon, that's when I became really suspicious. This was about 2 months before I considered unsubscribing from him. What I saw was Rich begging his subscribers for money, and the reason why he was begging was because his channel was growing stagnant, and he even admitted to this at the end of 2017. Instead of trying to put the effort into changing his channel, like what any other reasonable YouTuber would do, Rich instead resorted to asking his current fans, the one he has retained over the longer period of time, to give up their money so that he can support his lifestyle. And to me, this was unacceptable. How can you be a person? How can you claim to be an honest, objective reviewer of technology, claim to be an objective person in general, and be this incredibly lazy? And you can see how lazy he was, because at 2016 came around, he promised his subscribers he was going to lose weight, that he was going to, in a year, you would see a different Rich altogether, and he actually proceeded to get fatter. So that in itself tells you what type of man Rich really is. There's a stereotype that obese people are undisciplined. I would say that definitely applies to Rich. His failure to change himself physically really reflects on who he is as a content creator, and that is, he's not involved at all. His format has pretty much been the same thing since he started making videos on YouTube, and that is taking an article from a website, reading that article, and then giving his opinions, which oftentimes are uneducated, they're factually false, and that's really it. He claims to have changed his format at the end of 2017 by filming himself behind the camera instead of overlaying the audio with gameplay, but any reasonable person will see that he didn't change anything. That's a superficial change at best. What he really did was fool his audience. I mean, that's what it comes down to here. He's been leeching on his audience for as long as I can remember. He's been begging for money. That's what his Patreon's for. It's for nothing other than that, just to beg for money. And he continues to fool his audience into believing that he's doing something with his channel by making these half-assed, flip-flopping format changes. And on his Twitter, you can see him throwing out ideas every now and then that he never delivers. And I really think the only reason why he does this is to trick his viewers into believing that he's trying so that they can say, oh, okay, Rich, I think I have confidence in you. Take my money. And then once Rich gets what he wants, he just says, yeah, I don't need to do it. You people will keep giving me your money. So Rich's lack of change to his channel is what ultimately caused me to unsubscribe from him. He is, and also the straw that broke the camel's back, right? All this was tension. Everything I mentioned so far was tension building up. But what really broke the straw for me was his censorship and how he hypocritically condemns censorship. But when it comes to actually speaking out against him, he will censor anybody. And I saw this during his live streams, right? He took donations, same thing as the Patreon. He constantly took donations from people. And you can see how lazy he is. I mean, the room he was in recently, that red room, he hasn't painted the walls. It's been like at least a few months now. I mean, we've probably given you enough money where you could at least hire a painter and get it done. But you won't. You know, the money's going towards what? Your children, your wife. I mean, you're not really putting it back into the channel. You're using it to sustain yourself, right? Which is unacceptable. I mean, at least reinvest it into the channel. But you're not even doing that, right? So at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. And going back to the censorship thing briefly, what caused me to unsubscribe to him finally was when I saw other people posting comments asking who the fraud father was, who this other person whose name I can't remember was. Eventually I would find out these are people who were outspoken against Rich, who spoke against him. And I saw Rich deleting those comments in the chat as well as banning those people. And at the time I didn't know he was doing this, and I was casually asking as well, because he wasn't giving an answer, and I thought, yeah, the people are asking this, it must seem important. I asked him, who is the fraud father? And Rich immediately banned me from his stream, permanently. Which to me, that broke the camel's back right there. It told me Rich had no intentions to address himself, his own flaws. He had no intentions to talk about other people's perspective, and he had absolutely no intention of bettering himself as a person. And that was apparent to me. When you ban people for simply referring to someone you may dislike as a person, that's unacceptable. It's immature, emotionally immature on all levels, and it's unacceptable as a so-called professional content creator. At the end of the day, I really believe Rich is a man who has made his success on YouTube by exploiting his viewers, and he has no intention on bettering his channel. He does not want to keep up with the times. He would much rather do the easy thing he's been doing for, like 6 years now. And he's just a manipulator. He exploits people. He exploits his younger audience. And it's just unacceptable. And Rich, you know, I don't really know what to tell you. I would hope that you'd at least be willing to discuss these things in a video, or at least, you know, in a live stream or tweet it or whatever. But I suspect you won't. I suspect you're gonna, if you do see this video, you'll either ignore it, or if you're pressured to respond to it, you'll simply attack me for no reason. So that's basically all I have. I hope what you took away from this you can apply to your future encounters with various YouTubers. And I hope that you consider unsubscribing from Rich ReviewTechUSA and you see him as the fraud he is. That's all I have. If you have any opinions, please leave them in the comments section. Thank you for watching this video.